If there's any game out there that actually deserves or needs a remake, Resident Evil 5 needs to be on that list. The last time you played RE5, did you come away thinking the game is responsive and intuitive? Probably not. While this game does some things right, it actually does so much wrong in the gameplay department that playing it at times can feel like a chore. Some may say that it's a product of its time, but I wholeheartedly disagree. Resident Evil 5 came out in 2009. You know what other games came out in 2009? Left 4 Dead 2, Borderlands, Halo 3 ODST, and so many more. Games that are critically acclaimed for both their story and gameplay, many of which don't feel as unintuitive as Resident Evil 5 does. I actually have very fond memories of playing this game back in the day with my brother, and at the time, I didn't really seem to think too much into the control scheme or dissect the gameplay itself, but I was also like 12 when this game came out. So I didn't really care too much about all of that stuff in games like I do now. But going back and playing it with fresh eyes today can be a bit jarring. So today I'm going to explain why this game, more than the others, deserves the remake treatment. So let's get into it. Resident Evil 5 takes place in Africa and places you in the shoes of either Chris Redfield or Sheva Alomar, depending on if you're the host or not. The basic gist of the game is that you're in Africa investigating a black market bioweapon while the local population has been infected with a virus similar to that of Resident Evil 4. This is an extremely dumbed down explanation of the story, as there's many other side things going on that happen throughout it, but this video was never intended to be a beat by beat story discussion. I actually have very few complaints with the story itself. That's honestly not why this game would need a remake. Why this game needs a remake comes down to how it plays. The first thing you'll notice when you play Resident Evil 5 is the filter. In the chapters in which you're in the more desert-like areas, you'll notice the game has a greenish, yellowish tint to it. In some aspects, this filter can add to the atmosphere, but largely I feel like it's a bit too heavy. In many of the reviews I've watched for this game, most of the creators end up putting mods into it that remove or lessen the impact of this filter. Being as I play predominantly on console, I have no ability to adjust this. This is largely a non-issue, but in a remake I'd love to see this adjusted to be not as intense. Overall, I think the game still holds up fairly well. The graphics do look a little bit dated in areas, but largely it does look pretty good, and only if you stop and stare at some things will you notice that some of the objects may be low in quality. I think visually, the game still holds up for the most part. The main issues I really have come to how the game handles. When it comes to moving around, your left stick does the job as intended. Congrats, that's what every game that has movement should be able to do. Sprinting, though, is a tad bit clunky. On my control scheme, you can either click and hold the left stick and move in the direction you want to run, or hold A in the Xbox while moving in the direction you want to. There is no toggle option, so either the stick or button need to be fully pressed in order to continue to sprint. I found myself stopping and going with sprint, as sometimes when trying to turn while sprinting, your character will just completely stop to pivot. If you move and your stick is fully to the left or right while sprinting, the input notices that you're not pulling forward at all on the stick and will completely stop you to pivot. Eventually, you are able to get over the jankiness of running, but it still feels off, especially in a first-time playthrough. But weapons are probably one of the biggest gripes when it comes to Resident Evil 5. In order to use any weapon, you need to stop moving completely. There is absolutely no way to reload or move while attempting to shoot a weapon aside from adjusting your aim on the right stick while shooting. So once you have a weapon equipped, you need to stop moving, hold down the aiming trigger, then aim and shoot. Aiming can also be a bit of a hindrance. While aiming in with a weapon, the only indication you have of where your shots will land is the laser sight that's on weapons without a scope. If your weapon is aimed at an enemy, you'll notice a little bit of a thicker dot at the end of the laser to indicate that you're aimed on an enemy, which at close range is completely serviceable. But sometimes at longer ranges, it can be hard to tell if you're on someone or not. And there's also times where it feels like your weapon is aimed directly at an enemy, but you still miss. At close range, if an enemy comes out of nowhere, sometimes by the time you ready your weapon to shoot an enemy, they're already attacking you, meaning you'll be hit and pushed out of aiming and you need to reset. The sensitivity is also strange. There's an option on console to adjust your aiming sensitivity, but no option for the regular camera sensitivity. So sometimes trying to turn and look in a direction feels slow. This leads the gameplay to become extremely slow and punishing at times. In pretty much every other game, you're able to strafe around while using weapons, but not in RE5. So your options, if you have a large group of enemies, are to stand your ground and hope you have enough ammo to take them out, or run away and deal no damage. If this game had the ability to let you fire while moving, I think most of the issues would largely dissipate. Whether you're using a gun or a melee weapon, you have to stop moving in order to use your attack. That is where most of the clunk ends up coming from, is the movement and gunplay. One other aspect that definitely needs to be improved is the AI. If you're playing solo, you will have an AI partner in Sheva. Now, I like Sheva as a character, and I'm not totally against a partner in this game, but if you're solo, you are playing against enemies and then struggling with Sheva. In many instances, the AI can be of little help to you. She has her moments, but often enough she likes to lollygag around and not help out as much. There's plenty of times that people have died because the AI didn't know how to path to you correctly, or she just straight up stares at you while you die. As she is a character, she is also able to die. In some larger fights where you might get overwhelmed, it's possible that she just stays in the pile of enemies, constantly getting incapacitated, in which you need to go over to her to revive her to not risk getting a game over. Give her items and she'll most likely use them. Now that can be good when it comes to weapons, as she's able to kill them, but sometimes she'll just use herbs or other healing items when neither person's health is significantly low. Sheva's AI lacks the nuance to be able to make decisions that make sense at times. Playing this back in 09, I never had major complaints. Once more, that's probably because of how young I was. But playing it now as an adult, I notice how bad the AI can be at times. There are definitely times in which she's useful when it comes to healing you or killing enemies. Give her any weapon you don't want, and she in most cases can handle her own. But you will not go through this game without some moments in which her AI just seems to be brain dead. Playing on the lower difficulties, you definitely won't notice this as much, but playing on veteran or professional will prove very annoying if playing without a real co-op partner. Resident Evil 5 is an extremely controversial game, especially at the time. From the setting to the gameplay to the huge departure from the more horror-focused game that Resident Evil once was. I think the gameplay largely holds up to this day, but it's not without its issues. The sometimes borderline useless AI can be rage-inducing at times, especially on the harder difficulties. The clunkiness of the combat can be infuriating due to its overall unresponsiveness and unintuitiveness. I think Resident Evil 5 is a game worth playing, especially if you like action and have someone to play with. I genuinely do like this game. But for all of its issues, I think it would be a perfect game to get the remake treatment and put a modern spin on it. Largely, if you fix the AI in combat, this game would be almost perfect in my eyes. Had this game come out with the changes I mentioned earlier, I think it wouldn't even really warrant a remake. But due to all of its issues, I feel it would be a worthy option to get that modern treatment. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let's keep this discussion going. Thanks for sticking around and watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheerio, mates.